everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. August is National Black Philanthropy Month. Up next on Another View, we will talk about African American philanthropy, how we give, why we give, the perceptions about our giving, and whether or not we even consider ourselves philanthropists. Valeda Fullwood, author of Giving Back, a tribute to generations of African American philanthropists, is our very special guest, along with Vivian Oden from the Hampton Roads Community Foundation and Nicole Cleveland with WHRO Public Media. The Soul of Philanthropy is next on Another View, so stay tuned.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. In celebration of National Black Philanthropy Month, our show today will focus on African American philanthropy, and we have some outstanding guests. But first, our heartfelt prayers go out to the Franklin family and to all who love the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. Ms. Franklin passed away on Thursday at the age of 76. She died of pancreatic cancer. Aretha grew up in Detroit, Michigan, the daughter of renowned minister C.L. Franklin. She began her music career in the church, and at age 16, she went on the road singing with Sam Cooke when he was still a gospel star. Even though she was childhood friends with Smokey Robinson, she never recorded for Motown. Her dad wanted her to stay away from mainstream music. But eventually, Aretha entered mainstream music, performing music from all genres, including opera. But R&B and gospel were her foundation. She was the first female to have 100 singles make it to the Billboard chart. She was the first female to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She won 18 Grammys. Most importantly, she brought the pain and the exhilaration of the Black experience to the masses through song, and people all over the world mourn her death. Rest in peace and power, Queen Aretha. And just speaking of respect, at 1 o'clock today, some respect for Aretha, which is the name of a special documentary that we're going to be airing here on WHRV in place of the Moth Hour. And it will talk about Aretha Franklin's over 6-decade career. It is recalled by music documentarian Paul Ingalls and a panel of music writers and commentators. And that is at 1 o'clock today, right after Another View, Queen of Soul. Tribute at 1 p.m. right here on WHRV. And music is the universal language, and there's an opportunity for all you musicians out there to make a joyful noise at the second annual Community Play-In and Sing-Along. Come play with the Virginia Symphony Orchestra or sing with the chorale as we celebrate brotherhood, unity, and peace. Community Play-In and Sing-Along was created in 2017 in the wake of the racial violence in Charlottesville, and the event celebrates our community's cultural richness and diversity. The play and sing-along will happen at the Norfolk Scope on Sunday, August the 26th at 4:30 p.m. If you would like to play or sing, registration will take place at 2:30. There's an optional rehearsal at 3:30, and the event begins at 4:30. It's free and open to everyone, and I have the pleasure of serving as your MC again for this event. So please come out and join us. For more information, visit virginiasymphony.org. And now on to our topic for today, African American philanthropy. Black people are generous with their time, their talent, and treasures. Yet within the nonprofit fundraising world and the community at large, there is a perception that Blacks don't give, that as a whole, we are more takers than we are givers. Here to dispel that myth and others about Black giving is Valeda Fullwood, author of Giving Back, a tribute to generations of African American philanthropists. Hi, Valeda. How are you?
Hello, Barbara. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to see you again.
Yes.
Vivian Oden, Director of Donor Services with the Hampton Roads Community Foundation. Hi, Vivian.
Hi, Barbara.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Great. I'm doing wonderful. And Nicole Cleveland, Annual Fund Officer with WHRO Public Media. Nicole, how you doing?
Hello, Barbara.
It's nice to talk to you in this venue instead of across the hall from each other.
It is.
Absolutely. Well, all three of you ladies and myself had the pleasure of being at the Soul of Philanthropy event last night at the Slover Library. There is an exhibit that is going on there which talks about African American giving, and it is up until August the 30th. So when you have a moment, go down to the Slover, take a look. I think that you will be inspired. I think that you will learn a lot, and we had a wonderful panel discussion last night about African American philanthropy. So I want to start our discussion with asking you, Valeda, first of all, how do Black people define philanthropy?
Well, I think philanthropy isn't a word we use often. The spirit of giving we refer to as giving back, helping each other. It's just how we do. For me, my definition is based on the Greek meaning, because the word philanthropy has Greek origin and it means love of humanity. And I like to break it down even further and say love of what it means to be human. So in that definition, it's centered on love, the love that motivates the time, talent, and treasure that people give, and a focus on our human relationships between each other. In southern part of Africa, they have a philosophy or word, Ubuntu, meaning I am because you are, and it's a recognition that we have mutuality and that I'm nothing without you. And I think that spirit drives a lot of the giving that occurs in Black communities today.
Vivian, do you think that the African American community as a whole, as Valeda just said, really doesn't think of ourselves as philanthropists? Why is that?
I think many of us in the Black community, they just think we just give. Whether it's on Sunday at church, I just give. Whether it's giving my time, my expertise, they feel like they're giving back to the community, but philanthropy is just like a larger word. There's myths around that. People look at Bill Gates and think, oh, that's a philanthropist. I'm not the philanthropist. So just getting people to see beyond that and beyond thinking that a philanthropist are all these myths out there and that they can be a philanthropist and they can give back. Whether it's their time, their money, they can make a difference in their community.
And Nicole, does giving of your talent and your time is just as important in terms of our community, at least in terms of being a philanthropist?
Absolutely. I think the word philanthropy, it scares a lot of people. So they look at philanthropy as a Bill Gates, a Warren Buffett. And so I don't have $1 million. I don't have $500,000. I don't have a foundation to give, but I do have some time. I do have some talent. I do have giving capacity to give to one to another. I think we've been giving forever. And so we just don't label ourselves as philanthropists. And a lot of our community, people in our community, they don't want a title on it. They don't want to put a title on it because they look at it like if everyone knows that I'm giving, then more people are going to come ask me to give. I think that is prominent in our community as well.
So give us some examples, like from your book, Valeda, because you talk about giving back, and you do this as a tribute to givers. Because why? What got you in this space?
I guess what struck me was work as a writer in the philanthropic realm, institutional philanthropy, and just struck by the stories and imagery that too often center on immense financial wealth and whiteness. And I knew another story. I knew personally the philanthropic story in the Black community and thought we needed to lift that up. I'd seen white papers and academic pieces on Black giving and the fact that as a race overall, Black people are the most generous people in America in terms of the proportion of their wealth and disposable income that are given to philanthropic causes. So I knew that story, but I knew we don't see ourselves as that, and the broader community doesn't see that. And so the book was a way to, one, bridge the language of giving back and terms that we use to define our giving with the word philanthropy, because in my view, it's one and the same. and also to highlight the giving and celebrate the giving that has always gone along. We have always been philanthropists, and to pay tribute to those before us, that their generosity, oftentimes out of scarcity and for modest means, that paved ways for us. And now today we have access to institutions like Community Foundation, specifically like the Hampton Roads Community Foundation and other philanthropic vehicles, that we can bring the best of our history and tradition, coupled with, institutions and innovations and philanthropy and tools, and be more powerful in our giving. So that's what inspired the book. I wanted to create something that wasn't a white paper that only people, professionals in the philanthropic field read, but something that everyday people could literally have on their coffee table. So it's a combination of vignette stories, so little short stories, and I collaborated with the photographer Charles Thomas to bring photographic imageries, literally to reframe portraits of philanthropy. We've seen the distinguished white men on the boardroom walls, and in the wing of a hospital, and oftentimes our faces aren't there. And this was an opportunity for just everyday people's giving. That's the fabric of our society, to lift up and celebrate those.
Nicole, where did we learn as a people to give? Where did that come from?
Oh, I absolutely believe it's church. I believe it's in the beginning. I can remember back when, people would, our ancestors and our aunts and our aunties they didn't believe in institutions. They didn't believe in putting their money in a bank. So you had money in the mattresses, and you had money in the shoe boxes. And so you would think that the little old lady or the grandmom did not have any money, but then you saw them. It's very important to save, and they would teach us. You have to put $1 away, or you have to put $5 away. Even they would say, even from your husband, you got to put a little bit of money to the side so you can have something to the side. And that was teaching us. And so when there was a need, I remember stories in churches when the ladies would say, I didn't have food for the children, but I would open my door and I would see groceries sitting outside. That's being philanthropic. That is giving one to another and helping one another. We have fundraisers all the time, helping Johnny get on the football team and to raise money for the team, and helping the cheer team and all of that. But it's just not categorized as philanthropy. But that's what we're doing. Is that correct? And as noted last night, it's just not in that giving report. It's not in that your annual report of your household. I think that's what it goes back to. But if we were to sit down and write down everyone that we helped, that sister, that brother, that husband that's died and didn't have health insurance, didn't have insurance, life insurance, or that
for the
person,
funeral,
for the funeral, we come together collectively. That's not giving to an organization, and that's not going to be written in the annual report, and that's not going to be on our 1090, but it is us giving.
So, Vivian, when we talk about this whole idea of people understanding the Black community and where to go to find the wealth, if you will, because a lot of our giving is not categorized by foundations and so forth, where should they go? Or is that important? I mean, in other words, is it more important for us to tell our story more broadly so that it will wind up on somebody's list, or do we keep it insular? Do we keep on keeping our community together?
I really want people to think about, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want people to remember you when you're dead and gone? And so I think about at a community foundation, it's not about many people. They have fundraisers each year. We're going to have a scholarship. We're going to raise money. And then let's say the organization, they raise money for that scholarship that year. At the end of the year, they give the scholarship out, which is great. And then next year, they're doing it all over again.
They got to start all over
They got to start over every year and every year. And then if they don't get enough that year, then maybe that student doesn't go to school that year on a scholarship. And so it's really about thinking long-term investments, thinking beyond today. And then a community foundation is very helpful with that. You can think about where you want your legacy to be, how you want that to go. You can designate an organization that you want it to go to. So it's really getting people to think about long-term. I was on a nonprofit board. We didn't think long-term. We didn't really have a long-term endowment. And so the nonprofit closed because when the money starts going away and you don't have anything to fall back on, you're not doing what you need to do as fundraisers. You need something to go back on.
So really, what we can do then is take the knowledge that we already have in terms of our giving and take it to the next level in terms of the types of giving that we do. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. We're talking about African American philanthropy, and I would love to hear from those of you who are givers. And where do you give? Why? What made you decide to take that extra step to go beyond your immediate family and to make sure that you're also helping the community? 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So I want to get to this issue of people perceiving the African American community as a taker of charity as opposed to a giver of philanthropy. Where does that come from, Valeda?
I think a lot has to do with, again, people looking, centering around whiteness. And oftentimes the imagery we see, it's generous white people in the community giving to
poor little black children.
Yeah, poor little black children here in America or overseas someplace. Yeah. And that imagery is very powerful. I see it a lot. And again, part of the reason for the Soul of Philanthropy exhibit in the book is to create new imagery and introduce new imagery. While that is part of the philanthropic story, no doubt, it's a bigger picture. And so we can't rest on that stereotype or that single story of philanthropy. We really need to tell a broader range of stories and narratives and lift up our experiences. I think it goes back to something Nicole said earlier about, our first lessons about giving being in the church. And so we're also taught about modesty and not being too boastful about our giving. And so a lot of people keep it to themselves, or it's just, again, part of who we are and in our DNA, as a lot of people say. And so we're not even conscious of the generosity that we're doing. And so it's stealth and under the radar. And increasingly, I think we need to share our stories, not in a boastful way, but in a way, particularly for the next generation, because media is powerful. They see these stories, Bill Gates giving and Warren Buffett's giving, and it seems awesome. And everybody thinks you have to be a professional athlete or win the lottery before you can engage in philanthropy. And that's not true. And so we need to amplify our stories and share our examples in an inspirational way or setting an example. Otherwise, yes, that stereotype can become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. Heather joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Heather. You're on the air.
Yes, I want to celebrate Aretha Franklin and her marvelous philanthropy. She helped make payroll for the civil rights movement. Commentator Michael Eric Dyson is, I'm crediting all of this information to him. Of course, she was the music maker of the world, but she was a philanthropist, obviously very modest about that contribution, as was her upbringing. But she is a philanthropist that we need to uphold as long as with her beautiful voice and gift.
Okay, thanks so much for the call, Heather. I see you nodding your head, but later, go ahead.
Yes, this morning I was reading a piece from UNCF, or the United Negro College Fund, and her generosity in supporting scholarships for students at HBCUs. So yes, Aretha, not only a great voice, but an activist and philanthropist.
So, Nicole, you work in an industry or in media.
I do.
Which is different from some of the other ways of giving in terms of, you're not feeding the hungry, you're not doing some of those things, but you are feeding minds.
We are.
And I wonder how do you make that connection to the Black community, and for all of you to think about in terms of where people tend to want to direct their dollars and why?
Right. I believe as an African American community, we give to what we receive. We give to what we're watching. We give to what we're listening to. And we also want to help. And so when we are educating individuals at NPR and public media and public television, we're entertaining and we're engaging. And we have many African Americans that do give, and they give because they're a consumer of the product and they love what we do. We're unbiased. We tell the story, and so they appreciate that. And so that's what they're doing. They're giving, and it's hard to compete with the next organization that is out there, and our service organizations that are feeding the hungry and clothing the ones that don't have anything to wear, and building habitats and things of houses and homes. But what we are doing is we're bringing the information. And so that right there is that's the conversation that we have and the dialogue that we have with our members. And they appreciate, just like our counterparts, the shows, the programs. And I think a lot of times individuals will say, and I will hear, well, it's free. It's free. I can watch for free. I can listen for free, but it really is not free. We do have to pay for these programs. And with that said, we do have a pledge drive coming up on tomorrow.
It starts tomorrow, absolutely.
It starts tomorrow. And we do
For
need
TV.
individuals. Yes, we have a television pledge drive starting tomorrow. And that's how we fund our programs. So if you are not a member, please become a member during our pledge drive.
Now, is there a perception also, though, that people in the African American community, if they're going to give, it's more transactional as opposed to more of a sustaining gift?
Sure. There is a stigma that when we do air the doo-wops and when we air the music programs and when we air those programs, people are giving, and they're only giving for that DVD or they're giving for that CD, and they're not going to stay. And so they're going to fall off until they see something else. But I really believe that that's part of a truth, but it's not the whole truth, because they give because they are a consumer of our product.
And it's also incumbent upon the organization to continue to cultivate, is it not?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
So let's talk about cultivation, Vivian, and Valeda for that matter. What do organizations need to do to cultivate the African American community? I mean, knowing that our tradition is a little bit different in terms of why we give and how we give, what do they need to do if they want to bring us into the fold?
I would say to engage and cultivate the African American community, meet people where they are. Many times people might say in the African American community, what's in it for me? So it's all about meeting them where they are and finding out where their interests are. At the Community Foundation, they can support food banks, support WHRO, support organizations that are close to them, their colleges. They can set up scholarship funds for students to go to school for a particular field of interest or a particular university. So it's all about finding where they want to give. We work with people from all walks of life. So just learning more about the African American community, learning where they want to give to, finding out more about them, and really just listen. It's all about listening, building those relationships. Some people go and they're like, we just need the money. And it's not all about the money. It's all about building the relationships. Don't get me wrong, you want the money, but you have to cultivate them and build those relationships with them and build that trust.
Valeda, why is it so hard to build those relationships in the Black community?
I think if you're not from the African American community, it takes extra work, and maybe it's an extra layer of your work. So that is a barrier for a lot of people. If you're in the community as a fellow African American, I think it's just how you socialize and who you're around. And I think it's also that piece about bridging language and recognizing the cultures of giving, that it's not one size fits all. And so a lot of folks, I feel, approach it with, a single approach. And you really have to have some cultural competence and some willingness to be out of your comfort zone in establishing relationships with communities that are not your own, whether that's the African American community or the Latino community or the Asian community or a community that's not your own.
Barbara, I think
Yes, go ahead,
the
Nicole.
story that you brought up last night was spot on about the development officer and reaching out to an African American and that person saying that they don't have any money, basically.
Yeah, because
if you wanted to share
the
it.
attitude was I was asked to connect some people together, and the development person said, "There's no need to waste my time because Black people don't have any money,
Yeah.
and they don't give."
Yeah.
So so there was a missed opportunity
That is
for
such
major
a myth.
donors.
And
Yeah.
it's such a myth because even if I don't have the money today, how do you know where I'm going to be next year or the following year? So building that relationship and staying connected with the individual, because when you just throw someone away, that is saying a lot about the organization too, because show me you know me. Yes, a lot of African Americans will say what's in it for me, but our counterparts say the same thing. What's
Yeah.
in it for me? If I give you this, what am I getting in return? So what is that feeling that I'm going to get? Are you going to build the school? Are you going to send the child to school? Or are you not going to do what you told me that you're going to do? So I think it's key to relationships, building those relationships with one another, and show me that you know me. If you know that I don't care anything about that over there, that you're building that well over there, that really doesn't interest me. But that child over there that doesn't have any food, like when I was a younger child, maybe I went through that. So I'm going to go back to what I went through. A lot of times we're chasing the LeBrons and the Michael Jordans and the Oprah Winfreys, and we're really just overlooking that individual that may not have $1 million salary or a $500,000 salary, but they are a wonderful saver. What we've learned is that individuals that give $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, that's wonderful. But it's that donor that gave maybe $50 a year for 10 years that will pass away and leave a bequest, a legacy gift of a significant amount.
To Nicole's point, at last night's event, there were two examples of the power of Black philanthropy and also of small donors with the new Smithsonian, the National Museum for African American History and Culture, that when they launched, the director, Lonnie Bunch, has shared he hoped when they started the fundraising effort, he had hoped that maybe a quarter of the donors would be African American, and ultimately it was the vast majority, or I think around
I think it was 2/3,
quarters,
they said,
of the donors were African American in the end, and that museum changed the game for the whole Smithsonian organization across the institutions on how much money could be raised for this public institution and how many individuals would be willing to give. So they've jumped ahead of all the previous Smithsonians with their fundraising records. And I think the first $1 million gift to a Smithsonian Institute came to that museum. And another example is the Obama candidacy and when he was running and the number of small donors that
$5 donors.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it's not only important to cultivate relationships, but also know what matters to us, and history, a sense of pride, game-changing opportunities to contribute and help make something happen and have impact means a lot.
Means a lot.
Yeah.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about African American philanthropy with Valeda Fullwood, author of Giving Back, a tribute to generations of African American philanthropists, Vivian Oden, director of donor services with the Hampton Roads Community Foundation, and Nicole Cleveland, annual fund officer with WHRO Public Media. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. What makes you give? That's what I'd love to hear from our audience. Why do you give? Give us a call and let's talk about it. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So I asked this question last night and I want to ask it of you ladies today. What do we as African Americans need to learn about giving? What are we missing in terms of the education piece that we need to know about how we give and the ways that we can give? I'll start with you, Valeda.
Yes, one broad point I'd like to make is, while it's been documented through all the studies and research that African Americans give a larger share of dollars to philanthropic causes more than any other race, it's also known that we have substantial inequities and social gaps that exist in our community. So I hope that through these conversations, the book, the exhibit, the work of Hampton Roads Community Foundations and other philanthropic groups, that we become more conscious in our giving. And while we're generous, focus more on closing those gaps and
So targeting our money more.
being more conscious of our communities and how our dollars can have an impact. And that's different for each individual, but to, give continuously, but to know how you're giving and to be mindful of where you're giving and why you're giving. And one of the messages in the Soul of Philanthropy exhibit is to bring all of yourself to philanthropy. A lot of people want to leave it at the check. And I believe in the imagery, our imagery tries to reinforce this. You got to bring your mind. So yes, you got to be analytical, strategic, and do your research and know who you're giving to, that these organizations can be accountable and deliver what they say they're going to deliver. But you also got to bring your hands and all the things your hands can do. Yes, it can write a check, but it also can be hands-on, it can volunteer, it can be of service to the organization. You've got to bring your head, your mind, your hands, and then also your heart. You can't deny what you're drawn to, what you care about, what you're moved by. And a lot of that comes from your own personal experience. If you were denied an opportunity to go to college, you might want to fund a scholarship fund. If you're passionate about health and well-being, then you want to give to those causes. Exactly. So a lot of it is drawn out of our personal experiences. So you can't deny what you love and what you're moved by, but you also bring your soul. And for us, that means the core of who you are and your African-American identity, your identity as a woman, your identity as a person of faith. So it's a combination of all those things that you bring to your giving. And we believe that's the most potent giving. The most powerful giving is when you bring all of yourself, your mind, hands, heart, and soul.
And so, absolutely. What do we need to know?
I agree with Valeda. And I think it's also about bringing your joy, just having joy about what you're doing in the community, looking at long term, really educating about those causes out there and seeing what you can do and how you can give back. As Valeda said, volunteer time is so important. Going into a school, tutoring students, going on the weekends to the food bank, giving your time. So I really think people don't want to lose sight of that, losing sight of seeing that impact yourself. Sometimes you give your money, you walk away, and you don't see that impact in the community. So really seeing the impact and the change that can be made out there. And as Valeda said, with the inequities and injustices, the more money, the more time you can give and actually make that impact, the joy that you bring to it, the love you bring to it, just bring all yourself. Like she said, so much more can be taken away, so much more can be done. And just looking at that long term, realizing that you can come together. You and some of your friends, your family, come together, put your resources together, put your time together, and you can do so much more, bringing people along with you in this journey. So just look for what can you see for the future in the community and how can you look beyond today.
What do we need to know, Nicole?
I really think it's about the need and seeing the need and meeting the need. A lot of times we look at the need and say somebody else will take care of that. I don't have the $500,000. All I have is the 50, and not discounting what you do have. A lot of us do that. So we say this $20 is not going to do anything. It's not going to make the impact on the $500,000 that they're trying to raise. So we're trying to, I would think we have to change our mindset. We have to shift our mindset and say, yes, I can do my part. And I have to agree with you. We could do more together than apart. So yes, my $50 may just do this small part. But if I bring my 30 friends and we all give $50, what impact can that do? And so there's a new term out and it's called peer-to-peer fundraising. And there's all kinds of workshops and there's all kinds of trainings and webinars about peer-to-peer fundraising. And I look at that like we've been doing peer-to-peer fundraising forever. We've gotten our neighbors and our community and our family together for years. That's what peer-to-peer fundraising is. And so getting us together collectively and saying, let's do this together.
Let's do that. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Elena joins us from Norfolk. Hi, you're on the air.
Hello, another great show, Bob
Thank
Hamley.
you. Thank you.
Fantastic. I love it that your guests there are able to bring so much forth. That is wonderful. I would like for them to maybe research at some point and share with us in the future. My understanding was that lots of the big money philanthropy that comes from maybe white people brings with it chairs and seats at universities, wings at things. But our contribution is generally anonymous. But when you actually look at it, and the people who contribute to disasters and difficult times for others, you see us at the forefront with significant amounts of money. So that was one thing. The other is that I'm concerned about freedom of the press. And at this point in my life, being a retired person and all that, not having the resources that maybe I used to or should, I decided that one of the things I could do was to take subscriptions to the newspaper. I couldn't necessarily employ a journalist, but I could at least keep newspapers viable. So the Journal and Guide and the Virginian Pilot and whoever else I can think of who may be small and maybe somewhat insular. However, it keeps that institution alive so that we have the freedom of the press, but we also have people employed doing very necessary jobs. The other thing I do, I make sure that I contribute to you. And I am what is it called? Sustainer.
Thank you for
thank
that.
you,
I wanted to
Elena.
let you know that. Keep up the good work.
Thank
Spend
you.
my money wisely.
Thank you so very much. We really appreciate your call. Thanks so much, Elena, for joining us. You know, she brings up a good point where she really looks at what's important to her and makes that happen from there. Lisa, do we have another line? If not, okay. Let's go to Dolores in Portsmouth. Hi, Dolores. You're on the air.
Hi, thank you. Very nice show. Enjoying it.
Thank you.
And I just want to mention the fact that Black people have always given. And if you go back years ago when people were taking other children and raise them and help raise them, grandchildren, aunts, sometimes neighbors. And the reason I said that because I was a product of a handicapped single mom. And some neighbors just saw me and took a liking and raised me, helped raise me, sent me to school, clothed me, and they didn't charge not one dime. And we have so many of our Black people who have done that. So I think we don't always have to have money, but our time and our love is so important because many of us today are where we are because years ago somebody helped us and gave love and time. So that's one of the things that I want to. We don't always have to have money, and we don't always have to give money. But we can other things that are just as important, sometimes more important than money.
Thank you so much, Dolores, for that call. She talks about using her talent and her time.
Yeah,
also. So, ladies, how did you all get into the philanthropy space? Where did it start with you, Nicole?
Yeah.
How did you get into this business?
So I just started in the development department. I started actually as a data entry clerk. I saw a position, I applied for the position, and I got in, and then I just worked my way up. I was like a sponge, and I learned everything that I could possibly learn about fundraising and the organization and what I could do, and I just grew from there. I really believe that when someone writes a check or when someone goes online and makes a donation, they're giving because they want to, and we need to treat them in a certain way. And so we need to respect them. They don't have to give the $10 or they don't have to give the $100. So we need to acknowledge them and say thank you. And so that's how I got started. And I just absolutely love it because I love our donors and how they give to us, and they don't have to.
Now, there are three of you sitting here, but when you look at the numbers, there are very few African-American fundraisers, when you look at the industry as a whole. Vivian, how did you get into the space?
Well, I would say when I was younger, I had a mentor. that she was very inspirational in my life. And so as I got older, I went on to college and I was like, how can I give back? How can I, do more for my community? And so I was looking into different ways when I was in college of organizations that give. And so I saw out there, let me research the Hampton Roads Community Foundation and see what they're doing. And so they had a position opening, and I started off there. And I actually started into the grant work initially. And so over the years, moving up, I really wanted to see how I can engage with more donors out there and look at their philanthropy and what they're doing out there and giving them programs and causes out there that they can fund. And so that's kind of how I evolved into it. I'm not necessarily a fundraiser, but I do help with donors after they set up their funds, and I help engage them and let them know about what's going on in the community.
Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that means in terms of the funds and so forth in just a second. But Valeda, how did you get in this space?
Mine was a twisted path. It wasn't not direct or by design by any means, but I had been in the corporate arena, working on international projects, living abroad. And when I came back to North Carolina, my home state, I got a job at not a community foundation, but an education foundation, a program manager there. And that introduced me to the philanthropic realm. And then went off on my own as a project manager and writer and started working with a lot of philanthropic groups and got kind of a 360 view on philanthropy, from writing grants to managing grant-funded projects to evaluating grant funds to starting a giving circle. And that really was, I guess, the notable catalytic moment for me is I learned about Black giving circles that were forming across the South. And if you're unfamiliar with the term
I was going to ask you,
giving
what is
circle,
Yes, talk to us about giving circles.
A giving circle, I describe it something like a book club. So it can take different forms, but a group of people who decide to come together because they share a common interest. And with giving circles, it's an interest in philanthropy or in giving back to their community. And in our case, we had 17 founding members, folks who informally decided to come together and establish a fund at our community foundation. Our name is New Generation of African American Philanthropists. Again, lifting up our traditions of giving and reclaiming the word philanthropy. And we committed $1 a day for 3 years, or $365 a year, a little over $1,000 paid over 3 years in a pool of funds. And attracted more members. And then we worked together to learn together more about philanthropy, about, the strategies and tools, about our history, about new innovations, what we can do as individuals outside of the work of the Giving Circle. And then we also host convenings and civic engagement around the topic of philanthropy, bringing other Black folks together to talk about giving and explore our generosity and how we can have an impact in the community. And then we also make grants. So together, through a consensus process and some due diligence on who's doing what and having an impact in the community, we decide how to make grants. And we've made grants from as much as $3,000 to a startup nonprofit, which is everything if you're trying to start up,
Yes.
to $10,000 and a range of organizations. But we have a focus and we're intentional. So we want to give to some of the smaller nonprofits that have an operating budget of less than $500,000 and startups as well. We like folks who focus on the Black community specifically. So their work serves a majority, overwhelmingly majority of Black communities or issues that affect us disproportionately. And then also that have Black leadership and diverse leadership that reflects our community. So through their board and their staff, mirrors our community.
Mirrors the community. So how does the foundation then work in terms of, they had a giving circle, they went through their community foundation. Is that something that you can do through the Hampton Roads Community Foundation?
Well, we currently have one giving circle that we do have, and it's similar to what Valeda was saying about them coming together, having events, giving out grants a year called the Community Leadership Partners. And so that's a way that people can also be a part of a giving circle as well. And they can give back to the community, maybe do site visits, have speakers coming in and talk about the issues in the community and how they can give back. So the Hampton Roads Community Foundation has a giving circle as well.
So education then becomes another big part because Vivian, you and I have had this conversation. A lot of people don't know about the Hampton Roads Community Foundation.
Correct.
In terms of our community and what you can do by coming together and combining your money. So I'm going to give you just a few minutes to really push that.
Okay, well, with the Hampton Roads Community Foundation, they can come, like I mentioned, the Giving Circle. In addition, we have 6 different funds that they can do. A donor advised fund where they can set up the fund and they're able to make grants throughout the year. They also have a scholarship fund. You can set up a scholarship fund for a student to go to any college they want, for any field that they want to go into, also field of interest, which focuses on different areas like the arts, education, health. In addition to, we have designated funds, so a person can designate their own charity they like to give back to, or an actual organization, nonprofit can come and they can designate themselves and they get funds every year. Also, organizational fund is another way that an organization can set up a fund for them and they can decide whether they want to take the distribution or not yearly. And then lastly, unrestricted fund where they can set up a fund there. So we have all different types of funds.
And people still have control.
Yes,
Ultimately,
they still have control.
Still
They
have control. I think that's something that a lot of times people think, well, if I give to this community fund or whatever, they make all the decisions. But you have control over your donation. Is that correct?
Yes, you can decide how you want your money to be given out, what you want to happen. And then you can also leave a bequest as well.
All right, we've got 2 minutes left. I want each of you to give a word of advice to those out there who may be thinking about giving, maybe have never given formally or thought about it, and from the ways we've been talking about it today. Go, Nicole. You got 30 seconds.
All right. Find an organization. Find something that you're passionate about. Find something that helped you as a child or your family as a child, and just start doing something. Start doing something. Bring your friends along, bring your family along, and make a difference. You know, we only have that gap from the time we were born and the time we leave. So make a difference in that
This
gap.
is in the middle. That's Nicole Cleveland, Annual Fund Officer with WHRO Public Media. Vivian?
I would say do something that you have that brings you joy, that you can give your all to, and just learn more about your community, what's out there, where you can get involved. You can volunteer your time, and how, like Nicole said, bring your friends along with you.
Okay, Vivian Oden, Director of Donor Services with the Hampton Roads Community Foundation. And Valeda, our special guest today, you have the last word.
Yes, I would say look to the Black experience for some inspiration for your philanthropy, and see that philanthropy is deeper than your pockets. And go over to the Slover Library and check out the Soul of Philanthropy exhibit.
Absolutely.
Where you can come to see philanthropy differently.
Absolutely. That's Valeda Fullwood, author of Giving Back, a tribute to generations of African American philanthropists. Ladies, thank you so very much, and we will be right back. Just Aretha talking about a little bit of respect. We love it. We all have something about ourselves that we don't like and would rather not share. But what if there was a way to embrace the thing that makes you different instead of trying to hide it? Well, Malara Green may have the tool you need to do just that. The millennial author recently spoke with our Lisa Godley about her new book, designed to help you journal through that thing you've been trying to hide and come out on top.
The Art of Just Being Me is more than just the Malara Green story. The 25-year-old therapist decided her first book would be an interactive guide to help people find the courage to be themselves.
All of my life, I literally cared about what everybody else thought about me. I was always that person that wanted to make everyone happy, but on the inside, I really wasn't happy.
Malara suffered 2 miscarriages before a successful pregnancy. And once her daughter was here, she knew her outlook had to change.
I made sure that I fell in love with myself, so I incorporated a few steps of self-healing, and then I put it in a book to share with other people because it really helped me out.
As a licensed, eligible clinical social worker, Malira serves as a therapist addressing the challenges her clients face each and every day. So she knew when it was time to put pen to paper, her book had to be more than just an account of her own struggles.
You're going to find a little bit of me disclosing some things of myself, but there's some open-ended questions. For example, in the chapter that's talking about embracing your difference, is asking the person what part of your story stands out to you the most. Take some time and write down what is your life story. Look at what part is significant. Allows them to have some reflections where they can sit down in their journal or rather in front of the computer, and they can actually go through their life story and see what actually makes them different so they can begin to embrace those areas instead of trying to hide those areas of their life.
Readers are also encouraged to answer this question: what are you putting off? And why?
That question came about because growing up, I always kind of depended on what other people wanted me to do. So at the age of 25, I had my master's in social work, I had my bachelor's, I'm already married with children. I've done all of these good things because I wanted to prove something to people, but there were things that I was putting to the side. And the one thing was me actually being who I really was without thinking about other people. So with that question, it makes that person think, okay, what am I actually putting away? Why am I doing what I'm doing? What are some things that I need to be doing right now that's going to make me happy and not people around me?
On her journey through self-discovery, the young therapist found herself in therapy, and what she discovered would lead her to address not only her issues, but compose a step-by-step guide to help others who might find themselves stuck in the same place. Her book's introduction begins like this.
Many spend a lifetime chasing after what those around them have or say they should have. This pursuit of false identity leads to a never-ending cycle of chasing a fabricated reality. However, there is hope. Learning the art of just being yourself will end this cycle permanently and provide you with the platform to reach your goals, dreams, and life desires.
Malira says she wrote The Art of Just Being Me in one night. She said she couldn't sleep and had to share it, writing down everything that helped her transform into the person she was meant to be.
This book takes you through steps so that you can really acknowledge who you are, the parts of you don't like, and change those so that you can be a best form of you. So at the end, you should feel like you're enough. You don't have to cover yourself with anything else. After asking all the questions and doing some self-discovery, you should feel like I have the power to just be me and no one else.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
And you can find The Art of Being Me, a walk through self-discovery on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, CreateSpace.com, and Kindle. Thanks so much for spending time with us today. Just a reminder that the Soul of Philanthropy exhibit is at the Slover Library in Norfolk now until August 30th. So please take the time to go by and see it. You truly will be inspired. Next week on Another View, it's Another View on Health with cardiologist Dr. Keith Newby. And it is with truly mixed emotions that we say goodbye to one of our Another View teammates. Today is audio engineer Victor Bowen's last day with us. We're sad to see him go, but elated that he will be teaching music in Portsmouth Public Schools. Oh, I'm going to cry, Victor. Victor is a newlywed. He and Joya got married last Saturday. Congratulations to them. And lots of changes going on in his life, and it is all good. Victor, we are so proud of you. We will miss you terribly, and just don't forget your roots, okay? We appreciate that. And our theme music was composed and performed by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. For the last time, Victor Bowen is our audio engineer, and Janae Jackson answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Thank you so very much for listening to Another View, and we'll let Aretha Franklin take us on home.